This is level 14, lecture number 2. So for this lecture, we will be discussing 3 topics. So we have forces, Newton's laws of motion, and uniform circular motion. Okay, so what is force? So force is a push or a pull upon an object resulting from the object's interaction with another object. So remember that whenever we speak about forces, meron parating 2 or more objects that are involved. So for example here, this person is applying a force on this machinery. So the person is pushing this machinery, so therefore there is force. And then on this case, okay, so this person is pulling this part of an aircraft. So pwede nating sabihin na this person is applying a force on this equipment. Okay, so sa force, maraming klase ng forces. So nagkakaiba-iba lang to, depende sa source ng ating force. So ang unit ng force ay Newton. So equivalent ng Newton is yung unit ng kilogram times meter per second squared. So if you remember, itong kilogram, this is a unit of mass, and then itong meters per second squared is a unit of acceleration. So therefore, ang tawag dito is actually a derived unit. Okay, yung Newton is a derived unit. Bakit siya tinawag na derived unit? Kasi yung unit na to nanggaling sa mga unit ng ginamit sa isang formula. So parang yung meters per second. So meters per second is a derived unit kasi galing siya sa unit ng speed or ng velocity. Okay, so there are different types of forces. So meron tayong tinatawag na contact forces. So the contact force this is the force wherein you have two interacting objects are physically in contact with each other. So ibig sabihin magkadikit. Okay, that's a contact force. So we have different types like tensional force, frictional force, normal force, applied force, and air resistance. So we will be discussing each one as we go along. And then the second type of force is the non-contact force. So the non-contact force, so we have two interacting objects are not in physical contact with each other but are able to exert or a push or a pull despite the physical separation. So hindi sila magkadikit pero nakaka-experience sila ng forces. So examples of this are gravitational force, magnetic force, and electric force. So gravity, so 'di ba, anything that goes up must come down. So kahit na malayo tayo dun sa center ng Earth, okay, so lahat ng object na tumataas, kailangan din siya bumaba kasi nga mayroong force yung gravity sa kanya. Magnetic force, so if you have ever experienced yung mga magnets, so kahit na hindi siya physically in contact with each other, minsan nilalapit mo pa lang yung magnet dun sa metal. So, may certain distance na nararamdaman mo na parang pinupull yung metal towards the magnet. So, that is an example of a non-contact force. Okay, so let's look into different types of forces. So, yung una is the applied force. Ito yung force na madalas natin dinidiscuss sa mga problems. So, this kind of force is the force which is applied to an object by another object or by a person. So, for example, this person here is doing an applied force ayan, on this card. So this person is pushing ayan, the card upwards. Next, we have tensional force. Sometimes we also call this as tension. Okay? So this is the force which is transmitted through a string, wire, a rope or wire, where it is pulled tight by forces acting at each end. So for example, on this elephant, okay, so there is tension that is exerted by the rope on the elephant. So yung direction ng force and tension, it's actually running along this rope. So this is directed along the wire and pulls equally on the objects on either end of the wire. So in this case, example natin, rope naman siya. Okay, so meron tayong forces, meron tayong tension force acting along the direction of your rope. Okay, so usually makikita nyo itong tension forces sa mooring operations. So, di ba, the mooring operation is the operation of securing a vessel to a fixed quay or berth by means of mooring lines or cables. So in this case, we have large tensional forces acting on the ship to prevent the ship from drifting away. So these forces are acting along the mooring lines. So meron kang tension dito sa mooring lines na to. Ayan. Acting on the ship which holds the ship in place. So para hindi siya lumakad pa palayo. Ayan sa dagat. So, kasi remember that the water here is also exerting a force on the ship. Gravitational force. So gravitational force, we usually use the symbol Fg. Okay, so this is the force with which the Earth, Moon, or other massive body attracts an object towards itself. So this is equal to the weight of the object as given by the equation. Fg is equal to mg. So wherein Fg is your gravitational force, sometimes we also call this as the weight. So sa Tagalog kasi yung weight at saka yung mass parang isa lang, pero sa physics magkaiba yon. Kasi pag sinabi nating weight, ito yung tinatawag nating gravitational force. Okay? So yung tinatawag natin na bigat sa Tagalog, yun yung mass. So the mass is the acceleration, here yung m is the mass, and then g, okay, g is the acceleration due to gravity. So acceleration na ginagawa ng gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, which is actually very, very fast. So for example, in this case, itong mga planets na to, kahit na magkakalayo sila, nakaka-experience sila ng gravitational force. Di ba, let's say all the planets in our solar system. So, di ba ka nagtataka ba't hindi nagdi-drift away yung mga planets? So, fix lang siya sa solar system natin. Kasi the sun exerts a force, a gravitational force on the planets, ayan, na hinahatak siya papalapit sa sun. So, the reason kung bakit nag-i-spin ang mga planets in an orbit is para hindi siya malaglag diretso sa sun. Okay, so yun yung nagiging cause ng mga orbits niya. So the sun exerts a gravitational force on all the planets in the solar system. Okay, so let's look into the difference of the mass and the weight. So katulad na nabanggit ko kanina, magpagkakaiba sila. Although sa Tagalog parang parehas lang sila at saka sa English. So mass is actually the amount of object that is contained by the object in units of kilograms. So ang unit parati ng mass is kilogram. And it is constant. So ibig sabihin kahit nasaan ka, pare-parehas lang yung value ng mass mo. Kasi nakadepende yan kung gaano karami yung substance sa body mo. Okay, for example, yung mass mo, let's say pag nasa moon ka, let's say sa Earth, ang mass mo is 65 kilograms. Pagdating mo sa moon, 65 kilograms pa rin yung mass mo. Hindi yun nagbabago. Kasi magbabago lang naman ang mass mo. For example, kapag naputulan ka, let's say, ng daliri o naputulan ka ng kamay. So, medyo morbid yung example ko, pero ganun yun. Okay, so, o kaya, let's say, nagpapayat ka, dati ka mataba, tapos bigla ka magpapayat. So, yung mass mo, mababawasan. Kasi, nawala yung fat sa katawan mo. So, natira na lang ng muscle. So, in those cases, nagbabago yung mass. Pero, granted na hindi ka naman nagpapayat or hindi naman nabawasan yung body parts mo, your mass is still the same. Okay, another example kung kailan nagbabago yung mass. So, let's say bagong kain ka. Kunwari marami kang nakain na food. So, syempre, pag nagtimbang ka, mas mataas yung mass mo. Okay, medyo mataas yung makikita mo dun sa weighing scale kasi nagdagdag ka ng substance sa katawan mo. Now, the weight on the other hand is the force of gravity acting upon an object in units of Newton. So, the weight changes depending on your location. So, your weight on the moon is less than your weight on Earth. Okay, bakit? Kasi yung weight nakadepende nga siya, diba, sa force due to gravity. So, kapag ang force due to gravity is mas mataas, ibig sabihin, mas mataas din ang weight natin. At kung mas mababa naman ang acceleration due to gravity, ibig sabihin, mas mababa din ang ating weight. So, classic example nito is, let's say, sa Earth, ang weight mo, para makuha mo yan, kailangan mong i-multiply yung mass mo sa acceleration due to gravity, which is 9.8 meters per second squared. Pero para gawin natin mas simple yung example, round off na lang natin siya sa 10 meters per second squared. So, for example, ang mass mo rito is 65 kilograms. So, ibig sabihin, ang weight mo times 10, 650, ang unit is newtons. So, yung weight mo rito na 650 newtons, kapag nagpunta ka sa moon. Okay, doon mas mababa ang acceleration due to gravity. So pagpalagay natin doon na acceleration due to gravity is ano lang 4 or 2 meters per second squared. So pagdating doon, yung 65 kilograms na mass mo, i-multiply mo lang sa 2. So yun ang value ng weight mo on the moon, and that is equivalent to 130 newtons. Okay, so kaya di ba papansin nyo yung mga astronauts kapag nagpupunta sa outer space, ano sila wala kasing gravity outer space, so medyo napakahina ng gravity doon, kaya doon parang nagfo-float lang sila. Okay? Kasi doon mas mababa yung kanilang weight compared to their weight on Earth. So kung halimbawa na sa airplane flight ka, mas malayo ka sa ground, okay, mas malayo ka sa center ng Earth, mas mababa yung iyong weight. So let's say yung weight mo dito kunwari at sea level is 650 newtons. Pag nasa eroplano ka na, okay, let's say if you are on a flight, yung weight mo doon is mas mababa kaysa sa weight mo on ground level. Kasi mas mahina na yung force due to gravity doon. Pero hindi necessarily may nalulutang ka doon. Okay? Yan lang, meron ka lang slight difference. O let's say pag umaakyat ka ng bundok, so pagdating sa bundok, yung weight mo, mas mababa pa rin yun compared sa weight mo when you are at sea level. Now, spring force. So, spring force is the force exerted by a compressed or stretched spring upon any object which is attached to it. So, napaka-common ito. So, makikita natin ito sa mga machineries. Kaya nga, sa mga machineries, meron tayong tinatawag na spring constant. Kasi yun yung nagdedetermine ng amount ng force na kayang i-exert, the amount of spring force that can be exerted by a certain spring. So, it acts to restore the object which compresses or stretches the spring to its rest or equilibrium position. Next, you have the normal force. Okay, yung normal force, this is the support force exerted upon an object which is in contact with another stable object. Okay, for example, dito sa barko. Okay, let's say here on the deck. Okay, the deck exerts a normal force on the cargo. Okay, bakit? Kasi kung wala tong normal force na to, lahat ng cargo na to is babagsak. Okay, so kaya kailangan yung normal force exerted by the deck on the cargo dapat mas mataas. Okay, kasi kapag mas mataas yung weight ng cargo pababa, okay, magko-collapse itong ating deck. Okay? Now, yung normal force dito, pwede rin ganito. It could also be the normal forces exerted by each container on another container. Okay, so let's say itong container na itong white container, nag-exert siya ng normal force dito sa red container para ma-support yung weight ng red container. Nga diba sa cargo storage and handling, actually, kinoconsider nila dyan yung laman ng bawat cargo. Okay? Kasi yung laman ng bawat cargo, anong de-determine kung gano'ng karami yung normal force na kailangang i-exert ng bawat isang cargo kapag pinagpatong-patong na sila. Okay, next example is the friction force. So sometimes we just simply call this as friction. So this is the force exerted by a surface as an object moves across it or makes an effort to move across it. Okay, so this one opposes the motion of the object. So for example, itong nadulas na polar bear. Okay. Actually, there is friction. There is friction between the polar bear and the ice. Kaya lang, yung friction na yun is very small, kaya nadulas yung ating polar bear. So, the direction of the friction force is always opposite to the direction of the motion of the object. So, for example, kung yung polar bear na to papunta dito, okay, pababa siya, yung friction is acting upwards, okay, opposite to the direction of the motion of your polar bear. Side varies directly with load. So, ibig sabihin ito, habang tumataas yung mass ng load mo, o mas lalong dumadami yung load, mas mataas din ang friction. Okay, so, for example, meron kang 1 sack of rice, which is 50 kilograms. At meron kang let's say, table na ang weight niya lang is only 10 kilograms. So, mas mataas yung friction na pwedeng ma-experience ng 1 sack of rice kaysa dun sa table. Kasi mas mataas yung mass ng sack of rice kaysa dun sa table. This is also independent of the surface area. Ibig sabihin nun, basta same yung floor, let's say dito, sa example na to, same lang naman yung ice everywhere. So, kahit yung friction na exerted, let's say, on 1 square meter of ice is also the same as the friction force exerted by, let's say, 10 square meters of ice. So, hindi siya nakadepende sa laki ng area mo. Nakadepende lang siya dun sa surface ng area mo. Ibig sabihin kung rough ba siya or smooth ba siya, doon nagdedepende ang friction. Kasi ang friction, mas mababa kapag smooth ang surface and mas mataas naman kapag rough ang surface. So, this can be calculated using the equation. Ito, friction force is equal to mu Fn. Ang mu, this one is what you call as the coefficient of friction. Fn is your normal force. Now, paano nakukompute ang normal force? Okay. Ang normal force ay usually equal lang sa weight ng object. So, kung na-compute mo ang weight ng object using Fg is equal to mg, usually, yun na rin ang equivalent ng normal force. Air resistance. So, ang air resistance is a special type of friction force which acts upon objects as they travel through air. So, they always opposes the motion of the object. Okay. So, for example, itong hot air balloon na to, nasa air siya. So, itong hot air balloon, nakaka-experience siya ng friction force. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, kung itong hot air balloon is pababa, okay, yung friction force na nag-act sa kanya is pataas. Okay, now, let's look at the different laws of motion, which is formulated by Newton. Okay, laziness. Ibig sabihin niya parang katamaran ng isang object. So, nagre-resist siya sa state of motion. Ano ba yung state of motion? Dalawa lang naman yun. Either the object is at rest or it is moving. Okay, so dalawa lang. So, sabi dito, the greater the mass, the greater inertia an object has. So, yung inertia natin, hindi natin siya directly nasusukat, pero related siya sa mass. Okay, ganito. Meron tayo dito ng tugboat and you have here a huge cargo ship. Okay. Itong tugboat na to, kapag ito from rest and then gagawin mo siyang moving, okay, papaandarin mo, mas mabilis tong gagalaw, okay, kesa dito sa huge container ship. Why? Kasi dito, less ang inertia niya. Ibig sabihin, less ang mass niya, so less ang inertia. Less ang resistance para baguhin niya yung kanyang state of motion from being at rest to moving. Then, sa ship naman, in the same way, okay, dahil malaki yung kanyang mass, ibig sabihin, malaki din yung resistance niya para mapabago mo yung kanyang movement from being at rest and then moving into a certain speed. Okay? So, yun ang ibig sabihin nun. So, pwede rin naman siya the other way around. So, for example, yung let's say, parehas na silang in motion. So, pag itong dalawang to nag-move na, ang pinakamabilis, or ang mas mabilis na pahintuin dito, itong tugboat. Why? Kasi mas madali siyang pahintuin because it has lower inertia. Less inertia because it has lower mass. So, ibig sabihin, pag lower mass at lower inertia, mas madali mong mababago yung kanyang state of motion. So, from moving to stopping. Ito namang ship, on the other hand, mas mahirap siyang pahintuin. Actually, kahit i-turn off mo ng engines niyan, dire-diretso pa rin yan ng movement. Okay? It would take some time before it can totally stop. Okay? Kasi mataas nga yung kanyang inertia. Hindi basta-basta nagbabago yung kanyang state of motion because of its large inertia. Okay, so again, sabi ko kanina, ang inertia ay parang katamaran ng object. Kapag tinataman tayo, di ba, mahirap kumilos. So, kapag mabigat ang object, mas mataas ang inertia. So, ibig sabihin, mas mahirap baguhin ang kilos nito. So, for example, katulad kanina, nabanggit ko, ang tugboat ay mas madaling pahintuin kaysa sa passenger ship. Mas mababa kasi ang inertia ng tugboat compared sa passenger ship na mas malaki ang inertia dahil sa bigat nito. Okay, now let's look into the first law. So, yung first law of motion is what you call as the law of inertia. Sabi nito, an object at rest tends to stay at rest and an object in motion tends to stay in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Okay, ano yung mga keywords natin dito? Okay, meron ditong dalawang types of motion na nabanggit. Yung at rest and in motion. So, sabihin, at rest at yung isa gumagalaw. Okay. Sabi dyan, kapag at rest na siya, it tends to stay at rest. Okay? At kapag in motion naman siya, it tends to stay in motion. Kung gumagalaw siya, it will still move at the same speed. Pag same speed, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig sabihin, wala tayong acceleration. Okay? Kasi same lang yung speed niya eh. And in the same direction. Okay? So, hindi babaguhin ang direction o hindi nagbabago ang direction. Unless, ibig sabihin ng unless, maliban sa meron tayong unbalanced force. Okay? Minsan ang tawag dito is external force. Okay, so for example, meron tayong laptop na nakapatong sa ibabaw ng table. So, yung laptop natin, hindi siya gagalaw hanggat walang tao na kukuha nito. So, yung tao na ito mag-exert ng force. So, yun yung tinatawag natin na unbalanced external force. So, unless mangyayari yun, so yung laptop na yun will remain there at rest forever and ever. So, hindi talaga siya mababago ng posisyon unless mayroong ibang tao o ibang object na pwedeng makapagpabago sa state of motion ng ating laptop. So, that is the law of inertia. Now, kapag gumagalaw naman, so for example, meron tayong car na nasa highway at ang speed niya is 60 kilometers per hour. So, same pa rin yung speed ng car. Okay, hindi yun hihinto. Okay, hindi mo mapahihinto ang car unless meron tayong unbalanced forces. So, saan nagagaling yun? Yung driver. Kapag yung driver, pinahinto niya yung car by applying brakes on the car, so magkakaroon ka ngayon ng friction between the car and the tires. So, dahil sa friction na yun, yung friction will act as your external force para mapahinto yung movement ng kotse or mapabagal yung kanyang speed. So, the car will remain moving at the same speed and at the same direction unless meron kang unbalanced external force acting on the car. Now, yung second law of motion is what we call as the law of acceleration. So, the law of acceleration states that the acceleration of an object as produced by a net force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the net force and in the same direction as the net force and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. Okay, so ang formula ng acceleration ay ganito. Acceleration is equal to F net over M, wherein A is your acceleration, F net is equal to your net force, and then M is your mass. So, based sa equation, pwede nating sabihin to. Yung acceleration natin is directly proportional sa net force. So, recall natin yung napag-aralan natin sa variation. So, since nasa same level sila, so we can say that the acceleration is directly proportional to the net force. And, okay, nasa baba yung M. Okay, kaya pwede natin sabihin that the acceleration is inversely proportional to the mass. Okay, so, pag sinabi natin the acceleration is directly proportional to the net force, so kapag nag-increase yung iyong net force, mag-increase din ang iyong acceleration. At kapag nag-decrease ang net force, mag-decrease din ang ating acceleration. Okay, so pag sinabi naman natin inversely proportional, so the acceleration is inversely proportional to mass, ibig sabihin kapag nag-increase ka ng mass, may decrease sa acceleration. So, mas mabagal. So, ito yung reason kung bakit mas mahirap pabagalin or pahintuin ng truck kaysa sa motor kasi mas mabigat ang truck kaysa sa motor. So, acceleration is inversely proportional to mass. So, kapag nag-decrease naman ng mass, mas may increase ka sa acceleration. So, mas mabilis mag-accelerate ang motor. True, kaysa sa truck kasi mas mababa ang mass ng motor kaysa sa truck. Ayan. So, parang kanina dun sa tugboat at saka dun sa container ship. So, doon, we can say that the tugboat has a lesser mass, kaya mas mabilis siya mag-accelerate compared doon sa container ship na meron siyang bigger mass, okay, larger mass, kaya mas mabagal siyang mag-accelerate. Okay, so let's look at this example. Okay, so gagamitin na natin dito yung equation natin for the second law of motion. So, the whale shark is the largest of all fish and can have the mass of 3 adult elephants. Suppose that a crane is lifting a whale shark into a tank for delivery to an aquarium. The crane must exert an unbalanced force of 25,000 newtons to lift the shark from rest. If the shark's acceleration equals 1.25 meters per second squared, what is the shark's mass? Okay, so again, so katulad ng pag-solve ng ibang problem, we will simply have to write all the given quantities and the unknown quantities. So dito, meron tayong F net, or net force na 25,000 newtons. And then you have an acceleration of 1.25 meters per second squared. At ang hahanapin natin ay ang mass. So, gagamitin natin yung formula ng second law na A is equal to F net over M. Pero ang hinahanap natin ay mass. So, ang gagawin natin, pagpapalitin lang natin tong M at saka yung A. So, you have M, or the mass, is equal to F net over A. So, pag sinubstitute natin siya, we have 25,000 newtons divided by 1.25 meters per second squared. So, magiging final answer natin is 20,000 kilograms. And so, therefore, the mass of the shark is 20,000 kilograms. So, madali lang siya kasi three variables lang naman yung involved dito sa ating equation. Okay, so let's have another example. If a 52,200,000 kilogram luxury cruise ship is accelerating at the rate of negative 0.357 meters per second squared as it comes into port, how large is the unbalanced force acting on the ship to make it stop in the proper location? So again, just like in any other problem, so sulat muna natin yung given at yung unknown quantity. So meron tayong mass na 52,200,000 kilograms at meron tayong acceleration ng negative 0.357 meters per second squared. Now recall na negative ito, okay, negative acceleration mo, kaya ibig sabihin, pabagal yung motion ng ship hanggang sa mapahinto natin siya. So we're now looking for the value of the unbalanced force, or the F net. So again, using the formula ng second law, so you have A is equal to F net over M. So para ma-solve naman this time ang F net, ang kailangan lang natin gawin, i-multiply lang natin yung M dun sa A. So para cross multiply lang natin siya. So you have F net is equal to MA. So if we will substitute that, so you have 52,200,000 kilograms times negative 0.357 meters per second squared. So the final answer is 1.86 times 10 to the 7 newtons. And so therefore, the net force acting on the ship is 1.86 times 10 to the 7 newtons. Okay, now let's discuss this time the third law. So the third law is what we call as the law of interaction. So sabi sa Newton's third law of motion, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So sometimes I like to call this as the law of karma. Okay, para mas madaling tandaan, di ba? Sabi sa karma, do not do unto others what you do not want others to do unto you. Okay, so ganoon din kasi sa Newton's third law. So these are some examples of Newton's third law. So I will be discussing each one. Okay, so for example here, so the fish pushes the water backwards and the water pushes the fish forward. So kung ano yung kung gaano kalakas yung force exerted by the fish on the water, ganun din yung same force exerted by the water on the fish. So the direction of the forces are opposite, but the magnitude is the same. So, mapapansin natin ito actually pa nagsiswimming tayo. Di ba pa nagsiswimming tayo forward, ano kailangan natin gawin? Kailangan natin i-push yung water backwards. So, yung paglangoy natin, ipinupush natin backwards yung water. Pero kapag gusto naman natin na mag-move backwards, di ba, sa water, ano ginagawa natin? Ipinupush natin yung water papunta sa harap. And we're pushing it forward. Okay, so that's the law of interaction. So, mas malakas yung pag-push natin sa water backwards, mas mabilis din tayo nakaka-move. Diba? Mas mabilis tayong lumusong sa tubig kasi mas malakas din yung force na ini-exert ng water sa atin. Okay, the next example. So, the tires of the car pushes the road backwards while the road pushes the tires of the car forward. So, the direction of the forces are opposite but the magnitude is the same. Okay. So, in this case, itong mga tires natin, nag-exert siya ng backward force, okay, on the road, and then the road also exerts a forward force on the car. Kaya yung car, nag-move siya forward. Wala siyang iniwan kapag parang, let's say, naglalakad tayo. Di ba kapag naglalakad tayo, yung foot natin, parang tinutulak natin pabalik, okay, parang tinutulak natin yung floor, okay, para tayo makamove forward. Okay, ba't natin kailangan gawin yun? Kasi as we push the floor backwards, yung floor naman, pinupush tayo forwards with the same amount of force. Pero, again, opposite lang yung ating directions. Okay, final example. So the bird's wings push the air molecules downward, while the air molecules push the bird's wings forward. So the direction of the forces are opposite, but the magnitude is the same. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the uniform circular motion. So pag sabi natin uniform circular motion, ito yung movement ng mga objects moving along a circular path. Okay, sabi nga dyan, the motion around the perimeter of a circle with a constant speed. Okay, so constant ang speed ng any object that is moving along a circular path. So parang itong motorcycle rider na to. So paikot yung path niya. So yung pag-ikot niya dito, you will be moving at the same constant speed. So an object moving in uniform circular motion would cover the same linear distance in each second of time. So same lang yung kanyang distance over time. Okay, linear distance. So kapag ang object ay umikot sa circular path, so ang speed nito ay constant. So hindi nagbabago or fixed. Pero ang direction nito ay nag-iiba. So, di ba? Nag-iiba naman talaga siya. Kasi kapag paikot, di ba, parang every time na nagtuturn ka, nag-iiba din yung direction mo. Kaya masasabi natin na may acceleration pa rin ng object. Bakit? Kasi nagbabago ang direction ng object mo. Okay? Kapag naglalakad ka sa paikot na path, kahit na constant ang iyong speed. So, hindi kailangan na makomplete ang circle ng path, okay, ng isang object. So, pwedeng curve path lang or arc ng isang circular path. Pwede pa rin natin sabihin that the object is under uniform circular motion. So, sa uniform circular motion, meron tayong different method of calculating the speed. So, in this case, pag calculating speed natin, di ba, alam natin, average speed is distance over time. Pero dito, instead na distance, ang ginagamit natin ay ang circumference. Kasi di ba nga, circular yung ating path. Kaya yung circumference ng circle yung kinukuha natin. So, that's circumference over time. Or, in this case, you have 2 pi r, wherein r is the radius of your path. Okay, so therefore, your speed is equal to 2 pi r over t. Okay, meron din tayong tinatawag na centripetal acceleration. So, it produces a change in direction without a change in speed. So, constant ang speed natin, katulad ng nabanggit ko kanina, pero nagbabago lang ang iyong direction. Okay, kaya ang tawag dyan ay centripetal acceleration. So, pag-compute naman yan, madali lang din. Kasi, di ba ang alam natin, sa pag-linear yung acceleration, ito yung v2 minus v1 over t. So, dito naman, kapag centripetal acceleration, ang ginagamit natin yung speed, yung average speed na na-compute natin kanina. So, in this case, this is v squared over r, or equivalently, this is also equal to 4 pi squared r over t squared. Pero ito yung mas madalas natin ginagamit, v squared over r, kasi mas madali itong tandaan. So, wherein AC is the centripetal acceleration, r is the radius, v is the speed, and t is your time. Okay. Of course, meron din tayong centripetal force. So, this is the force perpendicular to the velocity of the object moving along a curved path. So, in this case, we have Fc is equal actually to mass times the centripetal acceleration. Pero di ba yung centripetal acceleration kanina na-discuss natin, centripetal acceleration is equal to v squared over r. Kaya yung Fc mo naging mv squared over r. Okay? Well, let's look at different examples of centripetal forces. So, for example here, kapag yung kotse natin, lumihiko siya, okay, as it makes a turn, yung friction force na ini-exert ng road to the tires of the car, okay, it provides a centripetal force necessary to for the car to make the turn. Kasi remember, kapag less ang friction, ang nangyayari, hindi makakaliko yung car. Actually, magdidire-diretso pa yan, mag-i-slide yan. Okay, kaya, the friction here acts as your centripetal force. Okay, another example is this one. Okay, so if you have a bucket of water that is tied to a string, okay, and then, paiikutin mo siya in a circle. So, the force of tension, okay, yung tension force that is acting along this string, is actually exerting the centripetal force required to make this bucket turn into a circular path. Okay? Bakit? Kasi kapag wala itong tension force na to, yung bucket, hindi naman siya mag-move in a circular path. Okay? Kaya, in this case, yung ating centripetal force is nanggagaling doon sa tension. Then finally, whereas the moon orbits the earth, the force of gravity acting upon the moon provides the centripetal force required for circular motion. So, di ba yung moon natin, kapag nag-orbit siya sa earth, yung earth kasi is exerting a gravitational force on the moon. So, para makaikot itong moon, maka-orbit siya, the earth has to exert a gravitational force. So, itong gravitational force na to would actually be your centripetal force. So, in short, sa discussion natin, ang centripetal force ay kahit ano, dun sa mga forces na diniscuss natin kanina. Okay, parang special name lang yung centripetal force para dun sa force na naging responsible para yung object ay umikot or para mag-move yun into a circular path. Okay, now let's look at this. So, ito yung turning diagram ng isang ship. Okay, so kapag yung ship natin makes a turn, kailangan natin ng centripetal force on the ship for it to make the turns. So, galing ito sa equation na Fc is equal to mv squared over r. So, kung mapapansin nyo dito sa ating equation, okay, di ba yung Fc is directly proportional to your speed, to your mass. Pero, mas malaki yung effect ng speed sa kanya kasi yung speed dito naka-square. So, ibig sabihin, kapag tinaasan mo yung speed mo, let's say, dinoble mo, yung value ng Fc mo magiging 4 times. Bakit? Kasi ito naka-square. At kapag yung speed mo naman in-increase mo 3 times, ano ba yung 3 squared? Diba 9? Ibig sabihin yung centripetal force mo will increase 9 times. Okay? Kaya in this case, actually yung mga barko, bago yan maka-change ng direction, kailangan nilang taasan yung kanilang speed. Kailangan lang bilisan para maka-turn sila. Kasi or else, hindi sila makakapag-turn kasi kulang yung kanilang centripetal force. Okay, so let's have this example. A cargo ship with a mass of 7.8 times 10 to the 7 kilograms makes a 90-degree turn with a speed of 20 knots over a tactical diameter of 292 meters. Calculate the centripetal force acting on the ship. Okay, so, again, kukunin muna natin lahat ng mga values na given. So, you have a mass of 7.8 times 10 to the 7 kilograms. Okay, you have a speed of 20 knots and a tactical diameter of 292 meters. So, we're looking for the centripetal force. Okay, so dahil ang speed ay given in knots, which is nautical miles per hour, kailangan na natin siya i-convert sa meters per second. Kasi di ba yung Newton, ang unit niya is kilogram meters per second squared. So, kaya kailangan baguhin natin yung knots into meter per second. Okay. So, we know that for 1 nautical mile, you have 1,852 meters and that for 1 hour, you have 3,600 seconds. So, pag ginamit natin to as conversion factor sa equation natin, okay, we will get the following. So, 20 times 1852 divided by 3,600. So, your final answer will be 10.29 meters per second. So, ito yung speed ng ating ship in meters per second. Okay, next naman, dahil diameter yung given natin, kailangan muna natin i-complete ang radius. So, we know that the diameter is twice the value of your radius. So, to get the value of the radius, ano lang gagawin natin? So, i-divide lang natin yung diameter sa 2. Yeah, so you have 292 meters divided by 2 is equal to 146 meters. So, since meron na tayo ng mga given na yon, so finally, pwede na natin i-complete ang ating centripetal force. So, Fc is equal to mv squared over r. So, pag sinubstitute natin, meron tayong 7.8 times 10 to the 7 kilograms times 10.29 meters per second square, okay, divided by 146 meters. So, careful kayo sa paggamit ng calculator nyo dito. So, make sure na i-multiply nyo muna itong dalawa and then press equals bago nyo siya i-divide sa 146. Kasi or else magkakamali kayo ng sagot. Okay, so the final answer is 5.66 times 10 to the 7th newtons. Okay. Now, let's have another example. The centripetal force acting on a ship is 2.16 times 10 to the 8 newtons is acting upon a cruise ship of mass 6.29 times 10 to the 8 kilograms. So the ship makes a 90-degree turn around a tactical diameter of 400 meters. So determine the maximum speed in knots with which the ship can make the turn. Okay, so again, kukunin muna natin lahat ng mga given and unknown quantities. So we have an FC, or the centripetal force, of 2.16 times 10 to the 8 newtons. And then you have a mass of 6.29 times 10 to the 8 kilograms. And you have a diameter, tactical diameter of 400 meters. So what is the value of the speed? Okay, in knots. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, magkakaroon tayo ng conversion dito. Kasi yung makukuha nating sagot mamaya will be in meters per second. So, dahil diameter ang given, kailangan natin i-compute muna ang radius. So, again, i-divide lang natin yung diameter sa 2 para makuha natin yung radius. So, in this case, 400 meters divided by 2 equals 200 meters. Okay, so then, i-compute na natin ang speed gamit ang formula ng centripetal force. So, we have Fc is equal to mv squared over r. So, para ma-compute natin yung speed, ang gagawin natin, cross-multiply mo si r sa Fc, and then yung whole equation, i-divide natin sa m. Okay? Then, pag nakuha na natin yun, since v squared to, dapat kukunin natin yung square root. Okay? So, magiging ganito siya. Ayan. V is equal to the square root of Fcr over m. So, pag sinubstitute natin siya, we now have 2.16 times 10 to the 8 newtons times 200 meters divided by 6.29 times 10 to the 8 kilograms. And then, we will simply get the square root of that. So, the final answer is 8.29 meters per second. Pero dahil meters per second to, kailangan natin mag-convert. So, i-convert natin siya. So, you have 8.29 meters per second times 1 Newton nautical miles over 1852 meters times 3,600 seconds over 1 hour. So, makakancel mo yung iyong meter and yung second, kaya naging 16.1 knots. So, therefore, the maximum speed of the ship when it makes the turn is 16.1 knots. So, this concludes the lecture on level 14, lecture number 2. So, at this point, kailangan nyo nang sagutan yung output quiz for lectures number 1 and 2. So, that is an open note quiz. So, mas maganda kung dala niyo yung mga notes ninyo. So, para pag nagsagot kayo, ma-practice nyo and meron kayo mapag-referan. And, yun naman problem yun naman kasing mga output quiz natin is hindi naman siya time pressured. So, take your time, pag-isipan nyo mabuti. Consider this as a mock exam kasi kung ano yung content nun, kung ano yung pinaka-style nung output quiz na yun, ganun din yung ma-encounter ninyo sa finals. Okay? So, go back to your notes and good luck.